Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode here on Swish City. Where we're doing our power rankings, looking at each team, ranking them from 30 to 1. Looking at their additions, their subtractions, players they kept, players I think fit well in the team, players that I don't fit well, and ultimately my record prediction for each team leading up to the season. We've already broken down numerous amount of teams as we're down to our final four, and I apologize for not posting yesterday. I completely forgot. But we still have enough days to get these final four teams in before the season is finished. As you guys can tell by the thumbnail and from the title, in today's episode, we're going to be discussing the New York Knicks, a team that made a numerous amount of moves to switch up their roster to combat with the Boston Celtics, the defending NBA champions, to win the Eastern Conference. So, like we said in the introduction, we're going to look at the moves that the Knicks made this offseason. And as you guys could tell from the Sixers video a couple videos ago, it was cutting off the logo and stuff. But for this one, we had to zoom out to get everybody on this screen, which is absolutely ridiculous. Just goes to show you the moves that the Knicks made and how much they wanted to reshape their roster to be able to make ample moves and to compete with this Celtics squad. So let's look what the Knicks did because they had a busy off season. They had four re-signings. They brought back Jacob Toppin on a two-way deal. They brought back Jalen Brunson on a four-year extension, and they also gave an extension to OG Anunoby, a five-year deal, as he was their team's biggest free agent heading into the season. They also brought back Precious Achiuwa on a one-year deal as well. Now, for this Knicks team, when looking at some signings, they went out and brought in Cameron Payne, Landry Shamet, and got James Najee in a trade with the Hornets, who ultimately made two free agent splashes of acquisitions similar to the Celtics last year, kind of reshaping their roster, going out and getting Drew Holiday and Kristaps Porzingis. The Knicks went and did their thing of that with going out and getting Mikal Bridges to kind of get the Nova boys all together and bring the Nova Knicks to life, but then ultimately trading away one of those pieces in Dante DiVincenzo to acquire big man Karl Anthony Towns, as they thought that Julius Randle wouldn't fit into their new starting five construction, and they had some center issues with dealing with some injuries, losing Isaiah Hartenstein in free agency, and with Mitchell Robinson being out until January. So the Knicks needed to make a move and act fast before the season start, and they went out and acquired Karl Anthony Towns. Now the departures for the Knicks, like I said, is a very long list, so we'll try to kind of get them all in order here and kind of get them for you guys. Like I said, in that Nets deal with Mikal Bridges, they sent out Bojan Bogdanovic, they sent out Mamadi Diakite, and they sent out Shake Milton. And then the deal to obviously bring in a player in Karl Anthony Towns, they went out and shipped Charlie Brown Jr. to the Hornets as a third team alongside Daquan Jeffries and Dwayne Washington Jr. They also sent out Keita Bates-Diop to the Timberwolves alongside players in Dante DiVincenzo and Julius Randle, and Isaiah Hartenstein also left in free agency. Marcus Morris was signed by the team to an Exhibit 10 and then waived, and we'll get into him a little bit later. And I mentioned Bojan Bogdanovic. And Alec Burks, excuse me, departed in free agency to go to the Miami Heat as a late season addition in the Pistons deal to get Bojan Bogdanovic. So, like I said, this Knicks roster went through a bunch of changes, and their team is looking vastly different. Like we said, Karl Anthony Towns, OG Anunoby, Jalen Brunson, Mikal Bridges, and Josh Hart being your top five most paid players in your starting five, with some rotation minutes coming in from Robinson, Precious Achiuwa, Miles McBride, Tyler Kolek, rookie standout, and Cameron Payne. Now, the Knicks have made some moves that are not adjusted on Spot Track at the moment, in which they had to waive their Exhibit 10 deals, and they waived all of them in Shamit, Okiki, and TJ Warren at the moment. So the Knicks do have an open roster spot and need to fill that open roster spot to get granting from the NBA. So ultimately, I think a player Morris could be considered to go back, as the Knicks didn't offer him a full guaranteed deal after, they only offered him an Exhibit 10, similar to they did with Okiki to bring him back alongside TJ Warren. Morris didn't want that. He wanted a guaranteed deal to come back, but now with this open roster spot being available and waiving all of these players, it seemingly thinks that Morris might be that plug and play player to kind of fill in and take that last roster spot, specifically with Landry Shamet going down with a shoulder injury in the last preseason game. So now with going over all of those breakdowns here for you guys, let's kind of dive in and let's look at some players that I necessarily like or dislike for this New York Knicks team fitting in this season. So a player I want to discuss to kind of really break down it is Miles McBride, Deuce McBride, from the New York Knicks, as he saw again an emergence in this Knicks backcourt last season. The Knicks were kind of experimenting with having Emmanuel quickly in that backcourt, but ultimately realized that they weren't going to be able to give him that extension and keep Jalen Brunson, as they both were very heliocentric offensive players. Trading away players in Barrett and quickly it freed up some space for players like Miles McBride, players like Quentin Grimes to get those roles and to kind of showcase their skills for the New York Knicks. And Miles McBride really took over as that backup point guard and that true six-man scorer for this Knicks team. Now, this Knicks team, once again, having a player, McBride, and Dante DiVincenzo seemingly coming off the bench before the Karl Anthony Towns trade, it was a little wonky of a fit, and McBride's name was thrown around in trade rumors, with DiVincenzo being moved out. McBride is the key focal point for that second unit and is going to be that spark plug off the bench as a three-point volume scorer, playmaker, and being that second unit's point guard and six man for this Knicks team. Ultimately, for McBride, it's shoes that I think he can fill, and I think he'll live up to the role. But if another player that we're mentioning in a little bit does take over his role in that point guard position throughout the season, or McBride were to have some slumps in his shooting, I could see multiple amount of teams being willing to pounce on a player in McBride to offer the Knicks a key veteran role player to help them in their championship push, and I could see both teams agreeing to a deal. It's ultimately up to Miles McBride to see if he can get to that potential, and I truly think that he's going to showcase it with the Knicks this season, and a lot of fans are going to realize who Deuce McBride is in the NBA. But ultimately, it is up to him and how he plays. And the other player that I was mentioning is Tyler Kolek, who is pictured right here, the Marquette guard that got selected by the New York Knicks in the second round and is viewed as one of the best draft picks in the entire draft class. Kolek has been showcasing his skills at Marquette as a 4-year player, but then with the Knicks, he has also showcased his skills as well as it's translated to the NBA. He might be a little bit of a smaller guard, but he has that playmaking knack of a perfect passer and knows where to find his teammates, but also can hit the midi at an effective rate as well. Kolek has really impressed not only Knicks fans, but fans around the NBA. And this is where I think Kolek could possibly earn some opportunity in this Knicks lineup. Like I mentioned, McBride is their backup point guard, and with losing Landry Shamet to some shoulder surgery, and also possibly not having any other players to play that position, having a player in Kolek to kind of fill in that role and kind of take over could be key. And it all depends. If Kolek can show and he can prove to Tom Thibodeau and this team that he deserves those minutes, ultimately he will get them. And if he can showcase to the Knicks fans and to the NBA that he can fit in the system and work, I think Thibodeau will play him over McBride. I think it's going to be a little bit of a competition in which McBride obviously has the upper hand at this moment, as he's seen more NBA time, has more NBA experience, and obviously has been in this role for a little bit for the Knicks. But like I said, with McBride, if Kolek were to take over for him and kind of showcase his skills and be a better player, I could see the writing being on the wall for McBride with Kolek already kind of filling in being that role player. But ultimately, if Kolek doesn't step up and McBride does step up, I still think that's okay for Kolek as you still have some time to develop, and it ultimately could build up Miles McBride's stock enough for where he is shipped off the Knicks in a couple years due to them having to pay him a bigger contract, and which Kolek could take over as that backup point guard spot, learning things behind Jalen Brunson and obviously Deuce McBride. So I want to preface this now before we get further into the video. Like I did similarly with the 76ers, there's no player that I think really fits bad or looks bad with this Knicks team. I truly believe in all these players being able to step up and take a role, even down to players like Pacomi Dadier. But ultimately, I think the one concern with this Knicks team kind of going into the season is the exact one with the 76ers. And even though this player is pictured, this is not a concern with this player. And I just wanted to say that beforehand. But like I said, it's going to be injuries, ladies and gentlemen. With this Knicks team, like we said, kind of going into the season here, they've already had some injuries. Like we said, Julius Randle was a little bit of an awkward fit with their lineup with Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby if they wanted to play Josh Hart and if they wanted to play Jalen Brunson. Would Julius be playing a small ball 5? No. So they went and got Karl Anthony Towns. And Karl Anthony Towns also has had some injury issues, with Mitchell Robinson also having injury issues going into the year, being out till June. And that is one of my major concerns for this team heading into the season. If the Knicks just traded all this capital away, making sure that they can ensure themselves to get a real starting caliber center, which I think is an upgrade for the system and is an upgrade on a player in Karl Anthony Towns. If Karl Anthony Towns were to go down with an injury, who is there to step up? Precious Achua and Jericho Sims. They can fill in, maybe be good role players, but ultimately, I don't think Precious Achua and Jericho Sims can hold down that front court for that team. Ultimately, it would then make the Knicks have to make a move with one of these other contract players, and it could even ship out Deuce McBride earlier than expected, and could maybe have Knicks fans with a sour taste in their mouth. Ultimately, if this Knicks team stays healthy, I don't see them having any issues. With Mitchell Robinson already going into the season with issues, and Karl-Anthony Towns being known to be a center that does deal with injury issues throughout his career, where he's had multiple setbacks, I think that this could be an issue to rise for the Knicks and isn't a full time solution for their center position at this very moment. Now, ultimately, like I said, if things go right and they do stay healthy, then it could be fine. But I do think the one thing to look out for, like any other team, is injuries, but specifically with the Sixers and with the Knicks, because we've seen with both these teams, they significantly get worse when that happens. But let me know what you got. Oh, before we finish off, we got to get to the record prediction. Like I said, the record prediction's a little wonky as well. I messed up. But 59 and 23, second in the Eastern Conference, tying the Dallas Mavericks in the West. I do think that the Knicks will finish second in the East, even though they have some injury concerns going into the season. I still think they'll be fine. I still think they'll be solidified. And this unit has played with each other in college. I know it's been a little while, but McHale will be able to insert himself, I think, pretty fluidly with players in Jalen Brunson and obviously Josh Hart. Josh Hart being able to kind of do everything for this Knicks squad and kind of help out being that quality role player, I think is huge. And I think the additions of Bridges and Anunoby are going to be very big and tougher matchups going against this Boston Celtics team. I think that this team presents itself on paper, if healthy, with the best chance of dethroning the Celtics, and that's why I have them finishing second. But let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. What do you guys think? What do you guys feel? How confident are you guys in the Knicks this season? Drop down your comments. Do you guys think I nailed the prediction correctly? Do you think I was a little bit off? Also, let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. Once again, you guys have been absolutely fantastic in supporting the revitalization of this channel, and I couldn't appreciate you guys enough. Once again, I'm Bruce Velez. Have a great rest of your day. Peace out, everyone.